What's going on, guys? CTG Matt back. I know. I'm very late to cover this topic. It is NFL related, and I usually don't cover NFL related topics, but this was when I was really into football. You can't see because I'm in a circle bubble because I want to read this statement a little bit. However, yeah, it's about Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito. This was when I was really into football. It was maybe my favorite sport back then. So I'm very familiar with this whole case. Not really a case. Investigation. This clash. We could start now with the statement, and then we can backtrack into what happened during that time period. We're going to start off with Martin agreed to speak with ESPN. He's doing a different job now. He has plans for the future. He edits himself in real time, texting updates and changes to previous comments. He sways away from being assertive to being cautious. He describes himself as an alpha who wants to assure you he wasn't a fully formed person in his 20s. Fair enough. He worries over retaining agency of his story. I never believed for a second I was being bullied, Martin says now. He wants the world to forget the only thing it remembers about him now. It's a story that I've been trying to fix for 10 years. Okay, now that I've read you that statement, we can go back in time to about 2012. 2012, NFL draft specifically, Jonathan Martin, very promising tackle, guard, offensive lineman in general, was drafted by the Miami Dolphins in the second round, I believe. Yes, he was picked in the second round, 42nd overall in the draft. He was a very promising young player. Miami Dolphins drafted him highly for exactly that reason. He had upside. He could play tackle or guard. In 2012, it was assumed he was going to play tackle, so he did. Played some right tackle, moved over to left tackle when there was an injury. He wasn't good. I'll just jump right to the nitty-gritty. He wasn't very good as an O-lineman. That's very fair and well documented. You can look at PFF grades from back then. You can just look at his tenure in the league and see, well, they didn't really, he didn't really seem to play well. He didn't find his footing, to say the least. While Martin was struggling, there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, per se. Specifically with another offensive lineman by the name of Richie Incognito, but I won't just circle out Incognito, I will say his whole offensive line group. See, back then, and now to some extent, in football culture, American football culture specifically, there was something called hazing. Hazing basically means, hey man, you're a freshman to the team, you're a rookie to the team. Guess what, buddy? You're going to get harassed. You're going to get pranked. Now, some of these pranks go too far. Just very much too far. If you want to read some other ones of legends of their sport doing it, read over some of Shaquille O'Neal's pranks to young guys and rookies. Not okay what he does to people. Specifically, look over what he did to, what is his name from the Knicks, Lou Amundsen. Look up what he did to Lou Amundsen if you want to see what hazing culture is in American sports and sports in general. If you're unfamiliar, I doubt you're just unfamiliar though. So yes, the offensive line group would often pull pranks on Jonathan Martin. One of the ones that was talked about on Raw Room from a former WWE wrestler, AJ Francis, who went by Top Dollar, I think it was back in the day maybe. Can't quite remember right now. Big WWE fan myself, but AJ Francis, I will call him by his real name, talked about it on the Raw Room and said that a couple of pranks that they pulled on him were pretty simple ones, to say the least. Stuff like, well, he would go to eat lunch, he would have his lunch tray with him, he'd carry it over to the table, he'd sit down at the table, and everybody else at the table would stand up and leave. Now, is it a little bit mean-hearted? Yes, absolutely. But is it going to kill you? No. No, it's not. It probably would hurt your feelings for a little bit, but you realize, well, they're just razzing me. It's a little prank, you know? But eventually Martin really didn't see it that way. See, he was struggling. As we've already established, Martin wasn't doing well in the NFL. It's very well documented. I've said it before. And he had previously played left tackle and had a very bad game, and they pranked him after that. And, well, I'm going to be honest. If you're having a bad day at work, and then you go to eat with one of your coworkers, and they do something like that to you with no explanation, you'd be like, all right, dude. You know, you don't want to have a rough day and then get pranked on top of it. It's called the snowball effect, you know? So Jonathan Martin was having all these issues and everything like that, and then here comes a guy named Richie Incognito, who, for all intents and purposes, he has been very much known as not a great guy. You go back a decade plus and look at surveys that are who's the most dirty player in the NFL. A lot of them mention the name Richie Incognito. I'm actually looking at a list of the 25 most dirty or dirtiest NFL players of the 2010s. And sitting at number 13 right now, I can post it. It's a Bleacher Report article, is Richie Incognito. See, Richie has a very long history of being sometimes not very much of a class act. I'll just say that. See, he's been fined on 3 separate incidents in games. He has numerous personal foul penalties, and he had gotten into an argument with Steve Spagnuolo, resulted in his release from the Rams. Spags, defensive coordinator for the Chiefs dynasty over the last few years. I think Spags knows a little bit about football. And on top of that, he had received another $50,000 fine for a headbutt to 2 Tennessee Titans players. Incognito, without a doubt, established himself as one of the dirtiest players in the NFL. Other players felt that way, management felt that way, coaches felt that way. He wasn't very liked other than in the O-line rooms. He was one of those guys like a Draymond Green in basketball terms, where fans don't really like him, opposing teams don't really like him, but if he's on your team, you're like, you know what? I don't mind this guy. He might be a little bit dirty on the field, but he protects us and he gets the job done. But with his struggling play, and on top of that, all these pranks, Jonathan Martin had a mental breakdown of sorts. He checked himself into a mental institution for mental health treatment, which no problems with that. If you're having trouble with your mental health, yeah, bro, go check yourself in somewhere and, try and make yourself more level-headed and stable, and then reintegrate yourself back in. So that's what Jonathan Martin did. However, the harassment from Incognito and some of the other offensive linemen just didn't end there after he checked himself in. Stuff like harassing text messages, voicemails, everything like that. This bullying story basically shook Martin to the core, sent him into a mental breakdown, into panic mode, into which apparently his parents got involved. His mother, a Harvard he has a Harvard background, let's just say the least. The guy's got a higher education in his background. His parents got involved and realized, whoa, there's some stuff going on here that's not okay. A lot of these voicemails came from Richie Incognito. I can read you one of them here. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to do some bleeping, some blurring, and just avoiding some of the words that Richie used. They were very creative, to say the least. The voicemail starts in a very astonishing way. Hey, what's up, you half gamer word? Piece of shit. I saw you on Twitter. You've been training 10 weeks? I want to poo in your effing mouth. What? Okay. I'm going to slap you in your effing mouth. Cool. Slap your real mother across the face. F you. You're still a rookie. I'll kill you. Sources familiar with the situation also said that Incognito regularly used that type of language in voicemails conversing with Jonathan Martin. That was just how he talked to Jonathan Martin. It appeared Richie really just didn't like him. And I'm not quite sure why. I don't think Incognito's ever really said why. I get it, he's a rookie. But racial slurs? Slapping his mother? Death threat? What? Is this still hazing at this point? I don't know what this is, and I don't mean to laugh when I talk about him getting racial slurs hailed at him, but Jesus Christ, man. This is just unhinged levels of talk coming from Incognito. So Incognito ends up getting in a little bit of trouble. These voicemails get released. ESPN jumps on the story. Adam Schefter jumps on the story. Incognito routinely used racial slurs and made derogatory insinuations about Martin's sexual orientation. He called him gay. He made some marks calling him gay. Incognito maintained his innocence through all of this. Again, the voicemails are there. Like, they heard them. I don't know. He basically told him I'm so confused. Can't find the old tweet that Incognito put out around this time. He said, "Stop slandering my name," to Adam Schefter, NFL reporter. You hide behind sources who are not man enough to put their name behind the BS you report. This is the second time you tried to drag my name through the mud with this such and such. Okay, Incognito claims it's slander. Martin claims it. Well, Martin didn't really say much throughout this whole period. Remember, the guy had gone through a mental breakdown. I doubt he wanted to go out and sit in front of the media and talk about all this. He really didn't want to. But now we get to today, and that statement I put out came out a few weeks ago. So not today, but yes, today. From Jonathan Martin, basically saying he was never bullied. Now, can I just go the Norm Macdonald route on this one? I think everybody involved in this scenario should be put in a jail cell in the ocean. I don't think it's a bad idea. Incognito is known as one of the dirtiest players in NFL history, has used racial slurs on voicemail. I mean, I don't know how he can deny that part, and has called him other gay, essentially, and made gay remarks. I don't know, weird stuff there. Incognito is not the innocent party. But I guess Martin was basically saying, hey, I didn't really want all this. I didn't want the media attention and everything like that. And I don't like that that's how I'm remembered. I'm going to be honest. That's how you're remembered, because that's how your NFL life ended. He didn't get another job. He didn't try and really come back. So he couldn't finish, I guess, the story. No Cody Rhodes stuff. But if you don't add anything to the story and you just kind of ride off into the night, that's how the story ends, Jonathan. You know what I mean? If you just choose to put your head in the dirt like an ostrich and go on about your life like nothing ever happened, yeah, that's how the story's going to end, and that's how people are going to remember you. However, if he came out a year later, a month later, and came out and said, yeah, got blown up, shouldn't have done that, my bad, I think we'd be thinking of this differently, but this came out about a decade late, Jonathan. Now, why do I think Jonathan Martin is also wrong in this scenario? Because although in the interview he claims he's over it, he is not, and I think we can all tell that by how he tries to not one-up it, but he talks in a very condescending tone to Richie Incognito and the rest of his O-line group, basically saying, or I think it was Mike Pouncey specifically he was addressing, but he basically said, like, hey, my story's not done. I'm still rising. You guys peaked in high school. Ha ha ha, nerds. I'm the one with the money now. No, he didn't say that part, but he basically did say that. He basically said, hey guys, I'm still glowing up while y'all peaked early. You're a loser. He called himself an alpha. You're a loser. I keep saying it. I don't care if you don't refer to yourself as an alpha. No real man would ever refer to themselves as an alpha. The only people who call themselves an alpha are Weenie Hut Juniors. Can I be frank? The Tates. The guys like that. Would I rather have a thought daughter or a son who calls himself an alpha on the internet and in real life? I'm taking the thought daughter. I don't care, bro. I just give me a normal person. Don't refer to yourself as an alpha is what I'm saying. It's weird. You shouldn't do it. It's creep. I don't know how else to define it. Don't do that. Normal people don't call themselves alphas. Normal people also don't dwell on 10-year-ago bullying allegations. Most people would just move on from this and fade into obscurity, and that's kind of what I was thinking Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito were going to do. Richie Incognito was a great lineman in his own right, but Jesus Christ, nobody would remember the name Richie Incognito in 15 years. We'd forget about it. It'd be one of those guys that came up on the stat sheet, and you'd be like, oh, that's a name I haven't heard in a minute. Remember him? But here they are 10 years later, reigniting this same old beef. But on the same aspect, you cannot sit here and lambaste Jonathan Martin and say stuff like, well, Richie Incognito's just fine, man. He never did anything. The voicemails are right there. You can go read the transcript, bro. There was real life bullying that was taking place. And as much as Jonathan Martin wants to disassociate and create a different personality in his head and tell himself that he's an alpha and he's a top G now, my brother in Christ, we read the voicemails. You don't have to sit here and cope. Cape and cope. He's caping for Incognito and coping that he's not a wimp. Martin couldn't cut it in the NFL, but also Incognito went very much so too far. These are two people who just should not be in the public eye anymore. These are two people who just should not be talked about anymore. And I know I'm just amplifying the story more by talking about it. Not really at all. I got 39 subs, bro. I'm not doing anything of the sort. But if I'm being for real, I'm seeing way too many posts that are like, Incognito was innocent. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Those voicemails are real. Like, you can listen to the audio still to this day. Go do it, because it's real. And I'm not saying that Incognito, you know, I don't know what, nothing's going to happen to Richie Incognito. He made millions throughout his NFL career, and now he's retired, has probably kids and family. Nothing ever is going to happen to Incognito. Nothing was shut down because of him either. He still played in the NFL after this incident. It's not like cancel culture got him and he was, sent to an abyss somewhere in Ibiza. No. He played for the Raiders. He was an all-pro, I think, once or twice after. He was really good after this incident. It's not like it ruined his life. It just made his reputation worse than what he had already made it, which was one of the dirtiest players in the NFL. So for Richie Incognito, stop throwing doo-doo at Adam Schefter and making it seem like it was his fault and it blew up because of Adam Schefter. No, it blew up because you're a weirdo. You shouldn't have called him the forbidden gamer word, the hard R. You shouldn't have called him homosexual slurs. You shouldn't have said you were gonna kill him. There's like 5 things you just shouldn't have done. All right, and I'm not saying Martin's NFL career didn't pan out because of him. That's not the case. But realistically, this story should just be dead. And it shouldn't be something along the lines of, all hail Richie Incognito, he was right the whole time. Incognito was wrong in his own aspects. You guys need to realize there's nuance to this. It's not just he never bullied him. It was Martin doesn't believe he was bullied. Whether Martin doesn't believe it or not, you shouldn't call somebody a racial slur. Let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be real. There's free speech, and then there's whatever the hell that was. And that was beyond free speech. He should have got beat up for saying something like saying you're going to slap a guy's mom. You should get beat up for saying that. But for Jonathan Martin, for Christ's sake, stop calling yourself an alpha. Move on with your life. Be a family man, for Christ's sake. Disassociate from this entire story. Disassociate from your NFL career. All right, just go be Jonathan Martin, the investment banker, or whatever the hell he does nowadays. All right, go your separate ways. Kill this story in the media, send both of these two on 2 different boats into the ocean, and we can just end this whole thing altogether. If you support me, like, comment, share, sub. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to catch you. See you guys in the next one.